Hey everybody, good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and Disembodied Hands Quinny, Disembodied Beard John, and whoever else wants to show up, including all of you. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Shadow Raven, you're not the first to fall to the Ferrero Rocher. And yeah, the packaging probably could be used as a palette, but not a very good one. I think their wells are a little bit big, and I don't know if they're textured. I don't remember. But yeah, hey Rock Cash, thanks. I'm excited for the stream today too. Um, hello. Sorry for the slight lateness this morning, guys. I got wrapped up in something and then promptly went, it's late, and started running around like the white rabbit. It's a wonder sometimes my head doesn't fall right off. I have my new face cam. I didn't have time to set it up. Look how shiny. Look at that huge, oh wait, that's the lens cover. Yes, the face cam has a lens cover. Look at that shiny, huge lens. Like this is like 4 times the size of the current lens on my current face cam. So yeah, pretty soon there will not be blurry Anne when I'm talking to you like this. I know I'm slightly, it's okay, but it's just a freaking webcam. It's not anything spifftastic. Ooh, shiny. So I'll be hopefully setting that up this weekend, assuming that silly dog people don't take up my time on Saturday morning. And maybe we'll test it on my stream if I can hopefully not screw up everything before I have to stream. But yeah, so I'm going to pop that. I just want to show you that. I'm so excited. Shiny new thing. It is, I can show you the exact box. It is indeed a face cam. That is what it is. It is a full HD webcam. It is very highly rated on the Zon. It has a lot of capabilities that I don't know if I'll use, but now I have the capabilities, so I'll have to do some more reading. Really, though, I was just sick of this webcam having issues with focus, so I wanted to have something that was cooler. So I may have to redo my studio a little bit, because I want it to, we'll see, because it might have a wider field of view. But yeah, so it's very nice. Yeah, I switched that around because I was sick of having just my random crap back here. So there may be more switching. Yeah, right. And I noticed it on my video for YouTube. And of course, now I'm doing a lot on video on YouTube and on here. So I'm like, okay, I can actually invest in a new webcam. So yeah, it has a really wide angle, right? Can be adjusted. That's what I figured. Rock Cash, thanks. Yeah, because I'm really happy with my vision, my quality for this, right? For the video cam. I'm really happy with that quality. And before I didn't really care about the face quality. I'm like, meh. But lately for the YouTube, I've been doing more talking videos, right? Where I'm explaining stuff. And that means face cam, and that means I'm annoyed. Because I'm a perfectionist. And and anal. That's what makes me a good mini painter. So yes, that's what we're doing. So yeah, it should be good. It should be good. All right, let's do some NMMs and just chat. NMMs. But yeah, I read about it, Rock Cash, a bit. I'm so happy because I've always been a little bit dissatisfied with the quality of webcams in general, and I was happy to see that the market has changed enough that there's a market for a really good face cam. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I'll probably, like I said, I'll have to adjust my screen back there. I might need to change my bookshelf to somewhere else. If I do, I do. I would have to learn to use it. That's interesting, though, that I can do that. I'll read more about it. I love to read about new things, so I'm super going to dive into this. Hopefully we'll have it this weekend. If we won't, it'll be because I'm reading about all the crap that I can do with it. But yeah, I actually just have cards for scripted stuff. I just write down my script on a card or print it out or type it up and print it out, and then I just have the cards in front of me, and I can usually just glance at it and then extemporize. I took extemporaneous speaking in college, so it comes in useful, it turns out. So yeah, I don't like to keep anything to a really tight script because I like a more casual feel, but yeah, I feel that. And, maybe the teleprompter wouldn't throw me off. Or maybe staring at things on my screen would throw me off. I don't know. I stare at you guys on my stream, so maybe I can handle it. But still, it's good to know. It's good to know. Do they have separate software then that goes with it? I haven't even looked that far. I've just been like, thing! I need a thing. But, oh no, you're talking about an actual teleprompter that connects to it. Okay, cool. But yeah, probably not do that. Not really in the market for that. Because my cards work pretty well. I'm good at stopping at the end of a thought and just freezing and then looking at my card and then bringing it back up. I'm pretty good at that. So even Justin said I was good at that back when we were first shooting for Reaper. Ah, connected with the software of the face cam. All right, cool. I'm looking forward to exploring the software with the face cam then. That could be fun. Super exciting. And honestly, I feel like I could stand to switch things up back here. I liked having this bookshelf here, but now I'm like, well, maybe I just want my screen and some things hung on my screen. I don't know. Anyway. Thanks for the info, though, Rock. I really appreciate it. Hey, wow, you had sun, Kerniko. Wow. Nice. Nice basking. I wish I'm so not with winter this year. David actually brought up that I hadn't been using my Happy Light, so I'm going to be using my Happy Light from here on out, I think. And also upping my vitamin D. Because it's just rough. It's just rough this year. I just want to go back to Hawaii and just stay there. Just stay there. Not ever come back. Kodiak. You even took a photo to prove it? Oh, Pixar, it didn't happen. Kritiko. Did you post those in my random channel? My off-topic channel? So we can see what I would like to see what your place looks like with actual, sunlight. Take a picture of your bird feeders. All right, so I'm gonna do the steel first, then we'll finish on the gold. I want to get these axes figured out. Axes are some of the most painstaking or painful shapes to paint with non-metallic metal. A lot of people just don't know how to deal with the curve. It's not that hard once you figure it out, but figuring it out can be fun. Because we're not done with just a few things. Hoop. We're not done. This axe is just bland. It's not got anything on it but a base coat. It's Little Axe. Little Axe also only has a base coat on it. And a couple of these gold bits have nothing on them except a base coat. We've gotten some of the gold done, but not all of it. But you're correct. After this, we really just have to give him blood red eyes and just make sure we've picked up everything. I don't think I got some of the fur. I think I missed some of the fur back here too. Nope. It's not supposed to be stone. I'm painting it as steel. Really rough steel, but steel nonetheless. And even if it was stone, honestly, I would do more to it. But I would never leave it just blank. And because I'm doing steel, I want to grab color. Something to put in there to make it more interesting. I just put my ash and blue back here. And I don't know where I stuffed it now. It ran away, and we'll use Templar. Yeah, I agree with Quinny, no. Plus, we still haven't done the base, which is really simple. But again, too big Reaper. Please make oval bases. I'm just going to keep saying that until they do it. If we're going to do another base boss ever, it better have oval bases in it. Ever. If there are no oval bases, I am going to be so peeved. Oh, a little bit too much blue there. A little bit too much blue for that. So when I add another color to my gray for NMM, I'm really just looking to make it not look like it's just a pencil drawing. If you are too flat with your grays, it doesn't look right. The eye will just be like, that looks weird and artificial. So adding a little bit of a different color is a good idea, but I went with Templar. It's got quite a load of blue high density pigment in it. So that was a little bit far, so I'm going to walk it back by adding a little bit more cloudy gray until I can see that the blue is just a little bit of shift. There's the gray right in the middle. You can see the blue shift. Don't mind a little blue shift. I just don't want a huge amount of blue shift. Yeah, that's pretty much what David does. Although sometimes he looks at me and gives me this horrible, horrible frowny look, and then he walks away. Hold on, I'm shifting. There we go. My paper got a little bit out of alignment with my self. I'm glad she understands your humor. Oh, Inara. Inara's up there. And I like puns. Normally. Maybe it's just when the puns are just a reach. I like clever puns. Alrighty, so we've got that color to start with. We also need a shadow color. And he's pretty snaz actually for a barbarian. So I could use brown liner. More often with NMM I use gray liner, which we haven't done for a while. So I'll use that. Cool shadow ribbon. I do not have any snow. Snow would somewhat offset the dreariness of the weather. Everybody at CrossFit was complaining about it last night, how dreary we are lately. Also how cold the gym was when we started our workout. You're still dripping in sweat by the time you finish your workout, but starting your workout is very freezy. I need a long sleeve workout shirt, I decided. I need to get online and do some shopping. There we go. So I'm going to grab about 4 drops of the gray liner. And the reason I use gray liner instead of black for my shadows on steel is because the liners are naturally a little bit more translucent, which means they're easier to blend. And when you are doing steel, you're doing a blend from almost black to almost white, or sometimes often all the way up to pure white. And so essentially it's the widest blend as far as contrast and shade that you will ever do. And given that, it's the most pain in the butt, especially on a small surface. Yeah, we had rain. We've had a lot of rain. Yeah, long sleeve shirts. It's dreary today, but it's not. We're supposed to get rain tomorrow, I think. Quindy, take your allergy pill. Speaking of rain. It's been raining up here for my allergies to be awful. Ugh. Very annoying. All right. I'm going to back out a little bit so that we can get the ye old palette in frame. So yeah, I don't otherwise use gray liner. I think grays are usually a little bit too dead for me. I'd rather mix the shadow by doing complementaries or stuff like that. Yeah, well, that's what we're working up to. We're just mixing our colors to do all of our MM, which is highlighting and shading. Color reflections, I find like doing reflected color in the surface of the NMM. I find it's often kind of wasted on 28. You can do it. It just tends not to show up very well. It's much better on 54 millimeter and above. Where you've got more room and you can usually suggest those things a little bit better. So I've done like reflected color on NMM before. We also did just a little bit of like reflected light color on Mr. Mouseling here a while ago. So you can do it, but it's in a big blade you could do it. Like this orc who's a work and he was a class project. So for him, I could totally make some blue up here, and I think I might have even done so. Added a little bit more blue to the top of the blade to make it look like sky reflection. That's a big blade like this. It's easier to do. But with 28s, part of the problem is that you're not really giving them a lot of environment around them usually. Like this guy, he's just standing on flagstones. That's just going to be gray. So it's just going to be reflecting gray at the axe. So at that point, it's like, meh. Yeah. Yeah, that's our CrossFit vibe. I mean, you wouldn't want to heat the place because then you would just be dying. So I get it. It's just like, I need a long sleeve shirt to start with. Because I'm always freezy. So I'm going to actually do a 4-2, so a 2-to-1 paint to water on this one, with paint being the high number. And that will give me, I'm losing it. That will give me a thinned liner color like that, which is going to be easier to blend. And if I layer it up a couple times, it's still going to come to a near black. So there we are. So yeah, without knowing what's around my dude, it's hard to convincingly put colors in. You can usually get away on a model that you're presuming is outside. Like if I was doing, when I do the blades on my wood elf here, I'll be able to get away with sky color on the top of those blades, no problem, because she's obviously outside, right? So with other models, you may kind of hesitate and not be sure, and at that point, if you haven't clearly said what's around the figure and you put an odd color into your reflections, it's not going to make sense. It's going to look weird. Probably just going to look like magic, but not necessarily a logical magic. So it could be interesting, but yeah, again, I feel like it works a lot better on bigger models. I don't have my paladin here, or I'd whip her out, my paladin bust, because I'm doing a lot of reflection on her. A lot. Maybe I'll have to grab her for a future stream. I buried her because I was not in the mood to work on her. For an oval, for the 28, you're probably looking at 30 mil. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, it's about 3 centimeters long. So I would say that you would want just a little bit wider. So this base at its bottom lip is about 33 centimeters. So I would just want something a little bit wider than that. And as far as this, that's about 18 front to back. So if you had like a 30 by 20 by 30 oval, that would be the way to go, in my opinion. Like I said, if I can't like get them, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to like find the time to create them on the 3D printer, and that way I'll at least have something to put these models on top of, even though it's not a Reaper base. But I would prefer it if Reaper would do it, obviously. I don't know if I want to. No, I don't really want a 4mm. I like it best when the base butts up right against the plastic base Pendrake. So, like, if this is 28 and we went to 32, that's really wide for me. Like, I think that's a little bit too wide. I want something that the base will just fit into. Because I can always cut off. If I need extra leeway, I can always cut off some of the edges, and I often do. But I don't want it too big, because if you get too big for a base, you're going to create this dull area that you have nothing in. Like, having a lot of base with nothing really going on is terrible. Like, you have to fill it with something interesting, and that's a lot more work for you if you weren't originally planning on that. So 4mm all around is way too big. That gives him a really pie plate base that's just it's just really boring. Like, if I wanted that, I'd just use this. But I just want something that's going to put the model up on a nice plastic base that's not going to rub off, that can be handled without handling the direct painted surface, that I can, use to essentially just give him a platform to stand on. So that's the thing, right? Is that you get too big, you get very boring, and then you have a lot of space to fill, and maybe you just didn't have ideas for that, and then it really, like, kills you as far as your enthusiasm on the mini. Because now there's all this extra work and space to fill that you don't really have the oomph to do. So yeah, I would say a 1mm margin all around the edge, and I would say 30 by 20 would fit most. Like, I could grab a bunch of other bases. Now, obviously, it wouldn't fit Mermaid. She would be the bigger version of that. Right, because she's got a little bit bigger. So her base, and this would be like bigger monsters like bugbears and stuff that are stanced wide, or minotaurs too. So her base is about 32 32, so I might go up to 35 wide on that. And she's about 23, it looks like. 22 to 23. So 35 and 25. So 20 and 30, 20 by 30, and 25 by 35. And then you'd probably do a bigger version that's like 40, like 30 by 40. For bigger models. But that would be a nice trio of bases, honestly. I don't know if anybody would buy them other than me. That's the big question, right? But if we're doing another base boss and we want ideas, have some ideas. I'm good for ideas. I'm always good for ideas. But yeah, so most bases, as you guys know, I don't have a lot of trouble fitting in. But then you've got these wide stance guys that are always difficult. Yeah, see, and 56 millimeters is way too big for something like this. At that point, you're almost into mini diorama territory. You better have an idea on how to fill that space. I mean, we've done it before, right? With Karindra, with her griffin head, like where I took a smaller model and put it on a bigger base. But I had a very clear concept for that, and I wanted to do that extra work. Just pulling that extra work out of nowhere, that idea out of nowhere, is difficult for a lot of us. So. All right, so let's get some highlight. I want a mid highlight, and then I want pure white, and I'm gonna just do probably some wet blending here. But let's take a look. So I'm gonna grab. I mixed a lot of this gray, which is great because one thing I'm gonna do is put just a tiny bit of it into my liner. It'll just help it to blend in a little bit more. And I don't need it to go down to pure black. I just need a definite shadow, a near black shadow. And that still fits the bill. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of this and put it over here and get some white into it. Hey, Crowley. Oh, it's a quadruple sub-anniversary. Hold on. One moment. So high maintenance doing this in the middle of building paint. Oh, I also have, is Zachariah in the chat? You are, aren't you? I got that book, the Pantone book. I have some things to say about it. So probably we'll have some fun derailing the second part of the stream today. Talking about color theory. Because it's an excellent, as it turns out, it's an excellent teaching tool. Maybe not in the way you meant. So hold on. Yeah, Infinity Minis are pretty much, they like to have that wide stance, don't they? Planned derailment, indeed. Yes, I decided I wanted to chat about it. Because it's an excellent way, of all things, it's actually an excellent way for you to train your eye as to what clashing colors are and to like learn how to look for them. Because it actually, there's a thing in color, in art, where you intentionally clash colors. To try to essentially pull attention. Like some subjects, it might make sense to go with a discordant color scheme. I don't talk about it a lot because a lot of painters, mini painters, not coming from an art background, like that's so advanced, it's just like all it'll do is mess you up. But talking about why those clashing color schemes actually clash, that's useful. So we'll play with that in a little bit. All right. Quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary, happy quadruple sub-anniversary. There you go. People like Crowley, keeping my singing voice in tune. Although I got my Julie Andrews autobiography and the second volume. So I went back and I'm rereading the first volume. I started last night. It's really good. I'm already a quarter of the way through the book already. But it's making me like kind of regret not keeping up with my voice. Like part of me always is kind of interested in taking voice lessons again. Just to keep my voice in shape. Because I have to imagine it's kind of like CrossFit for your body. Like if you don't keep your voice in shape, you're going to lose it. And I really don't want to be one of those creaky old ladies. I want to have a decent voice. Oh, small Scottish cat. Uh-oh, double the singing? Oh, you got double 48. Well, it showed up in chat, so I had to sing. That's the rule. Twitch is just apparently wanting me to sing more. I unfortunately maybe over-thinned my gray, but I'm going to use it to layer. And then I'm going to grab more of this. So the thing about adding in the darker colors here is, as you can see, is that they tend to, if you let them dry, they tend to create lines. So I'm having to wet blend here a bit to get that gradient. And I still can see boundaries, but that's okay. So you can see the lines, but we can layer and work with that there. We can see it's not a perfect blend. Oh, it's a Twitch Prime glitch. Got it. Well, Twitch just wants me to sing more. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, let's see. So, I start out with a dark band here. I'm going to actually carry it down. And when I do, because I've got this curve here, I'm going to actually take it, start it wide, go narrow, and narrow it as it gets closer to the bottom edge. So let me see here. I'm going to start out with kind of a mixture. Nope, not dark enough. And I'm going to do it both sides here. Up there, actually. There is a bit of a facet to this axe, so perhaps it is meant to be stone, but I'm just going to go with somebody hammered it badly. Some blacksmith did not know their dealio when they made this axe. I'll mess around with it. Axes are a pain in the butt, so it's to your advantage just to kind of mess with it until you get something that you kind of like. But you generally want some bands of shadow. No interest in that one, Turgeon. If I was a superior of any religious order, I want to be the Mother Superior from Sound of Music. Still able to belt out the power ballads and just generally awesome. So here we've got this space between the jaws, so it's kind of obvious where our light is going to come down there. I'm just going to muck about. Like, if I don't like at any point, if at any point I don't like my shadow and highlight combo, I'm just going to paint over it. So, but the light is going to catch on this edge, and that's going to be true all along. Just like with swords, you want a white line around everything, all the edges. Meeting time again. They're happy accidents. Kodiak. No unhappy accidents. And I'm just going to muck around and I'm going to blend a little bit at the edges, kind of see how I like it. How I like the feel of it, if I like the feel of it. If I like it, then I'm going to kind of double down on that dark near the top. You can see that when I put this on very thick, it gets dark very fast, and that's the liner. But I can always lighten it up by painting over with my mid and blending it if I don't like it. I'm going to darken a little bit around the jaws here, just a little bit. You guys. Don't make Wendy turn this stream around. Then we're going to go in reverse and, like, only play reruns for the next, like, 2 weeks while she takes it out on you guys. And that's not really good for my wallet, so, like, let's not do that. There we go. Now, for this area, I could be using browns as well to kind of like shade down. And if I was on a larger model, I would definitely be using more of a brownish black. But as it is, when steel gets like dirty, it does tend to get those black bits. So we're just gonna go with that. Reruns, but the reruns are played in reverse. I would say that would summon like the demon child of painting, but then we'd just get Luca again. And we just had him. Alright, so white edge. Part of the NMM process. Whenever I feel like I'm understanding where I want my shadows and lights to be, that's where I'm white edging at that point. I may need to touch it up, but we're going to bring the white edge all across here, but we're going to keep it pretty thin. I'm using a really thin brush right now. My paint is 2:1 white paint to water, which is enough to give me the ability to draw a really thin line while still keeping it fairly bright. So I signed up for my first real writing coaching this morning, guys. I'm struggling with the new book. I feel like I need some guidance. This whole figuring out what my writing process is from scratch thing is not for the faint of heart. Like, some days I have great writing days, and some days I just have terrible writing days. Yesterday was a terrible day. I got very frustrated. And part of it is that I'm trying to do it with, you know, my regular living, i.e. Patreon and YouTube and all the rest of it, right? So, focusing can be hard sometimes. But figure it can't hurt. And I really liked the writing coach that we had for I took an intensive a few months back that was based around my highest strength, which is strategic. And it was the coach who did that one I really liked. I really hit it off with him. So unlike the other ones that I had encountered from the program, so decided to give it a shot. So this will be my first time ever really getting coaching, targeted coaching on anything, really. Not since, if you count like a very brief stint in basketball athletics in high school. I guess I get coached for CrossFit. Yeah, I'm following an utterly different process for number 3 because I didn't really have a process when I wrote the first 2, Pendrake. My process for writing the first 2 was, hey, it's NaNoWriMo. It's time to write another, 50,000 words. But that's not a sustainable process, it turns out. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how the heck I actually write. And this is a fun road, but sometimes it gets very frustrating. So I'm starting to bring in that light from underneath, because you do have reflected light as well. It will never be as bright as your brightest light, which is probably going to be bouncing off of this edge. This edge turns downward, so it's not going to be as bright, right? When you look at it, it turns this way toward the ground. So usually this edge then on an axe will be your brightest. The 21st I think I signed up for. Oh no, 19th. It's a Friday. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm interested. It'll be at the end of my day Friday, so, and it gives me another 2 weeks to kind of struggle bus a little more with what I'm trying to do now, and maybe get some more insight. But I mean, I really believe in this strength stuff. It's really helped me a lot, and I think it can help me more. So It's just that I'm not an expert, you know. Like, sometimes you hang yourself up with your own, like, qualities. And I have a lot of qualities that fight with each other. I have a lot of opposite qualities. And I also have a lot of qualities that are like, we need to find the best possible way. And that may be what's hanging me up right now, is that I'm not feeling like I'm on the best path, and it's actually kind of being a problem. Which is a thing your brain can do to you, because brains are weird, right? We talk about this. We talk about how weird brains are. No, it wasn't part of the process though, Pendrake. If I'm really honest, it's not. It's not really part of my process to think about a book for years. The reason it took me 10 years to finish those books is that I would work on it for 2 days or a week, and then I would stop. Until Nano came, and then I would, like, bust it out. And then afterwards, I was, like, sitting there staring at the ending to book 2 going, no. And that essentially blocked me for years. Plus, some 5 or 6 surgeries in there, some crazy stuff, divorce, you name it. So when it comes down to it, I wasn't taking it seriously. I wasn't, there were other things that I constantly allowed to disrupt my writing vibe. I think bodies are smart. I think brains are dumb. Our brain just gets in the way. Our bodies are pretty brilliant, I think. But our brain is like, no, exercising is hard and we need more chocolate. If it wasn't for our brains, we'd be in better shape. But our brains also give us the way to get around that, so I suppose. But I feel like bodies are intrinsically... Except, of course, I suppose I have to take that back, because bodies are also like, you need lots of sugar to survive the winter. And I'm like, no, we have heating. And body is like, don't understand heating, need more sugar. But yeah, so what I need, Pendrake, is to figure out what my actual process when I'm working on my writing every day is. It's harder than you'd think. And because I am such a freaking, like to not waste time person. I like to be efficient. And I like to feel like I'm doing the best I can. So that means, that just any solution isn't the best solution for me. And it may be that the coach looks at me and says, you're being dumb, don't worry about it, just get words. Just get words. Eventually you'll finish, it's okay. You'll figure it out. And maybe I just need somebody to tell me that. Because right now, I'm just, like, jumping, like, on an endless little hamster wheel in my head. Yes, we still have caveman brain. Yep. I know, I fight with my caveman brain. Although, slowly the chocolate, the evil chocolate, is evaporating out of the house. So, soon I will be able to happily be, not have to be on my guard every time I walk into that area of the kitchen. So we're putting a secondary highlight in here. I'm going to alternate light and shadow here on the bottom. I am mostly I'm going to bring up a little bit more light. The bottom edge is going to be generally lighter, so my shadow areas are going to be broader near the top. Because of the curve, because of this curved edge. It's going to do some interesting things. Whereas with swords, I find that you tend to have bands of color that are more solid. With the axe, I find that you definitely want to make them more triangular as the edge curves. That's why it can be difficult to do these to get a good result. Well, ours is shaping up now, so we'll see how we can get it. I ate one of those hazelnut chocolates this morning because I was just like, ah! My body's like, come on, let's get back to the healthy diet. Whining. It's whining. It's not getting much attention. Yeah, mostly my writing brain is doing what all of our painting brains do from time to time, which is it's wondering if I should be working on two different projects at once so I can switch back and forth to the one that I'm most excited about. And part of me is wondering if that is actually the worst thing I could do, because one of my top strengths is focus. And focus really wants to go deep on one thing. But I don't know, I have a lot of other like strengths that fight with focus, so it's like, yeah, it's just hard. I probably just need somebody to talk sense into me, so that's why I upped my pledge on my favorite coach's Patreon and signed up for just a little coaching session. This is the micro coaching, so I'll get like 15 minutes, and then that'll tell me like how that goes over the next couple months. Will tell me whether I want to spend the money and get actual real coaching, which is like an hour every month. See if I'm that screwed up. I tend to be hugely independent, so me even doing this is a huge concession. Because I definitely do the whole walk my own path thing. I tend not to reach out for help. But it's just a struggle writing this book. And I thought it was, oh, well, I was just working on the wrong book. And that was part of it. Part of it was that there was actually a story in between West of the Moon and North of the Wind. And I'm still convinced that I'm doing the right thing there. But it's still hard. And part of it is just getting used to writing every day. Like I tell you guys, like people who sit down and expect to be able to paint for like 2 hours straight or 3 hours straight, you can't always do that. If you are not used to doing that kind of output, you might be able to do it as a fluke on one day, just because you're really into it and you get in the zone. But for me, it took a lot of time to work up. When I was freelance mini painting, it took a long time for me to work up to doing 4 hours at a time, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Yeah, I am definitely that independent, no, I can figure this out myself person. But this particular coach, his one of his main strengths, highest strengths, is positivity. He's like, and you guys know I'm a pretty positive person, so that part of me really resonated with his ability. Like, he's very upbeat. He's very, you can do this. He's very, it will work out, and it like that's really what some core part of me like needs to hear every once in a while. I tell people that myself, but sometimes you yourself need somebody else to say that to you. And he's also high in ideation, so he's an ideas guy, which is great because I also have that strength, and he understands like how you can get all the ideas and want to do all the things, but it may not be the best for you. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to this. I thought about making it an earlier appointment, but they were all like during the week more, and I was like, no. I'm so resistant, Zachariah, to reaching out for help on things like this that I always think, like, my default thought is always, oh, I don't even have a question to ask. I don't even have a concrete question to ask. Until I was thinking about it this morning, and I'm like, I'm having trouble doing this. And I'm like, oh, duh, that is a concrete question. That is strengths related that I can ask. Duh. All right, so and what I'm doing here, oop, I got a camera. What I'm doing here is I'm just very gently blending layers, just a little bit at a time. I'm going back and forth between my shadow, my midtone, and my highlight color, highlight gray. I'm not touching the pure white unless I want to bring in, if I lose an edge or something like that. And I'm just slowly blending these guys in to get that brushed look. Oh, I don't have that gonna mess it up problem. I'm like, because, and I don't have that, Kroniko, because I learned very much with my first two books that it's actually better for me to just push out the mess and get the mess onto the thing. Because after I have the mess on the thing, then all I need to do is tune it. And I really like tuning. I like editing. I like making a thing better and iterating on it. So for me, it's much easier to just spew the bad out and just get it on the page. I can always cut the bad. I can make the bad better. I can write a whole new scene. But if I don't have significant progress into the story, enough to give me momentum headed toward the ending, it's a real struggle. It's a real struggle. Yeah, Zachariah. Yeah, but sometimes you need to ask for help, and it's just like it's just as simple as saying, I'm thinking this, and I don't know if I'm crazy. What do you guys think? Right now, there is definitely a downside of that because a lot of people will just ask the random internet for help, and the random internet is just going to give you so many different responses that it's going to be confusing because all those people are, there's going to be some people out there that are similar to you, but there's also going to be a crap ton of people out there who are very different from you. So I'm darkening down my shadows now, guys, making them a bit darker. I'll make them very dark up here near the edge. You want a lot of contrast between here and here, between your highlight and your shadow. My metal here is otherwise pretty burnished, but on that edge, that's where I gotta pop the contrast. Yeah, and I've just been forcing myself to write, and that's a thing, right? It gets me further along, but I'm frustrated at the same time because I feel like part of me, like, part of my gut says it's not optimal, that I'm not doing this optimally. I've been in places where I've been working optimally in the past, and this is not it. So that's why I decided to do this, to go for this and pay for coaching, because I need an outside perspective. Well, yeah, and copying, I actually started out not copying other people's models, but I watched a lot of movies with like lighting effects. Like Lord of the Rings is pretty much what taught me, what made NMM click for me. I saw examples of it all the time, but like the lighting in that movie, if you really watch the metal objects, you can start to get a very good feel. It's also what taught me how to highlight faces. So I blame Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers. And a little bit of Return of the King, I think. I was looking at Gandalf's sword a lot. But yeah, you really do learn by, that's actually what I advise people to do, Shaka and Derek, is I advise people to pick a couple of painters that you really like, find a model of theirs that you can get good pictures of and that you can obtain yourself or have, and then try to copy their paint job. Without reading a guide, if they have one, just try to copy it using your skills. You will learn so much. And then as you become more confident with your skills through doing that, that's when your style starts to evolve. And that's why you want to pick painters that you really like their style really resonates with you, because that sets you already on the road toward your own style most likely. Their styles are probably resonating with you because like that's kind of what you would have as a style, as preference. Now you can also try doing it with people whose stuff doesn't resonate with you, but it's not as likely you're going to actually finish that project. You may learn why their style why you don't like it, which is definitely an experience that you might want. Now we're looking shiny. See how much that extra dark like made things go shinier. So I'm actually going to bring up a light here so that my lights and darks are setting each other off. So there's kind of a simple test, a simple question about NMM that can tell you a lot about why it's not working for you. And that simple question is, when you do it, do you dislike it because it looks like rock? It looks like stone and not metal. And there is a specific fix for that. If there's a different reason you do it and don't like it, then that's going to take a little bit more exploration. Hello, Richard Bennett. Oh, Kerniko. No worry, there's no metal there. Richard, I was just telling people I'm actually getting a writing coach. I'm going to actually get writing coaching. I need help. Not in the actual writing, but in the process of like figuring out my process, so to speak. You were talking about how difficult this is because I hate asking for help. Yeah. I'm conflicted about what the best way to, what my best process is, and I'm looking for somebody to bounce ideas off of, so I decided to get a coach. It's a coach I've encountered before, and I had positive experience with him, so I'm hoping that it will be cool and give me some guidance if I need it, or give me the smack upside the head and say, just keep at it, it'll be fine, which I might need that too. Actually, you can get perfectly okay NMM, not awesome, but perfectly okay NMM without smooth transitions. You need to nail your highlight and shadow placement. Like, if you nail your highlights and shadows, even if you have blocky NMM, it will still look cool. I can speak to this because in Sergio's class, he just literally painted bands of light and shadow onto a sword, and it looked awesome, even with zero blending. Because the placement was correct. So that's looking pretty good. I need a little more light down here. This band of dark is too wide. Don't let your dark take over. You need to blend that in. The dark side must not get too broad. It's more effective if you narrow it a little. Gotta keep the dark side in check. Yeah, I really just need to know, and the thing is that as a Clifton Strengths coach, he's going to be able to do like a, yeah, that's fine, not just in general, but specifically looking to my strengths. In my top 10, he shares 5 of them, so he gets a lot of my thinking process, probably. He understands at least from certain angles, so he'll be able to tell me if it's just like, this whole best seeking crap is just one of my strengths acting up and I should ignore my compulsion to work on 2 projects at once. I guess what it is like, I'm making progress every day on Rite of Winter, right? I am. But I'm not making great, there are days where I'm not making great progress on it, and I'm like, I still want to be putting out words, and I'm like, if I switch to my other project, if I switch to Queenmaker right now, which I'm excited for, would I be able to do another 1,000 words without sacrificing? Obviously, I still did my words for, at least a few words for Rite of Winter, but would I actually get more done in a day if I allowed myself to switch to that other project? If you want it to look amazing, yeah, you don't necessarily need 9 layers per scale, depending on how big the scales are, right? But you do need, I would say 3 is minimum, 4 is going to look better, 5 is going to look awesome. It takes a long time. My first dragon was my Wood Elf dragon for my Wood Elf army, and I had 5 different layers of color on those scales, each of those scales. It actually goes faster than you think, guys, because you're doing big sections of scale all in one color. You just like and every layer you do goes faster because you're shrinking your highlights. So it's not as bad as you think. It's a lot of work, but it's more like, and it's all, yeah, but you're aiming for gaming, Richard. You're not aiming for like showcase, right? And everybody's going to want their dragon done to a different standard. If you just want a dragon that looks pretty good, honestly, get an airbrush and go to town. And then just paint the eyes and claws and do a little extra detailing if you feel like it needs it. But if you really love dragons, like Kerniko does, and you really want them to look amazing as you can make them, because that makes you happy, then consider putting more time in. But dragons are huge projects, and everybody's got to find their sweet spot. And just like I was talking a second ago about how you can't just jump into, like, painting for 4 hours a day, you have to kind of work your way up to painting, and then from there to 5, and there to 6, right, if you're looking to be full-time. It's like that with dragons. Like, start with small chunks and work up to it. Yeah, I agree with Derek. I think that painting scales is super relaxing. It's very much a vibe. It's like you just kind of go in. You don't have to think too hard because you know what you're doing. All right, so I brighten the light up top. I still have that white edge on the bottom. I probably could bring up the light just a little bit more there at the edge, though. So I'm going to do that. Because I've got a lot of difference there. And I do want to give the feel that this edge is catching light from reflecting from the environment. I feel like I'm not getting that right now, so I'm going to up it just a little. I'm not going to bring it close to this pure white. I'm going to use my light gray. I'm probably going to actually grab this light gray and mix more white into it. Yeah, if you want to enter a competition, you might want to aim for smaller models, honestly, at first, and work up to them. So do a small dragon. There are plenty. Reaper does plenty of small dragons. Or you can just get a 3D... like a 3D print and scale it down. Some of them will scale okay. Just watch out because the supports will get super thin and you might need to take the unsupported version and do support separately. But yeah, if you want to paint monsters for competition, start with smaller monsters and work out how you like to paint and then start painting the big stuff. And honestly, airbrush can still be a good tool for that. Starting out that way and then going to the detail. It's still a good tactic for competition. So I'm bringing that up. I've got a little bit of texture here and brush strokes. That's fine. I'll bring back my base coat and I will blend that in. Also remember there's a couple ways to go about doing that dragon paint job. Probably the biggest difference in my dragon painting came when I started not doing it just scale by scale, but I gradation shaded and highlighted the body just as big areas first and then started highlighting. I will be doing a series of videos for this eventually, the dragon thing, but I want to do them as separate paid videos on my Patreon. They're going to take a lot of work and a lot of painting time, and I don't want to do them as part of the regular Patreon because it's just going to be so many hours. It just doesn't make sense. So I will do dragon videos eventually for the Patreon, but they will be a, separate. You can go to my store and buy the video on, setup, on painting the large areas, step 1, and then, how to paint the head and the painting details and stuff like that. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to do long videos with many topics in them or if I'm going to do shorter videos, smaller videos with very specific topics so that people just pay like $1 or $2 and get specifically what they need. Decided to bring up the light a little bit there and there. So now I'm looking a little bit better. I like this a little better. Golden Demon has a large monster category for both fantasy and for sci-fi. In things like the Reaper Open, you're entering a dragon, but you're not against any other models. You're essentially painting against yourself because you're just trying to do the best you can and trying to get a higher medal than you got last year. So it depends, right? It depends. Creature Caster, which has their competition at Adepticon, does have a category for large models and categories for small. Most of their models are large, though, so their main categories are large model categories. So here I'm going to figure out what I need to do. I need a dark here. I need to look at where the light is falling. Now, looking at the top of this axe, you can actually see when I put it in line with my overhead light, you can see which side is the light side. It's this side. Right? You see that shadow on the other side? What that tells you is that's where that also needs a shadow. So I'm going to put a line on that side and maybe a little bit of this liner just to place hold. And that tells me that this top surface needs to be painted lighter in general. So I'm going to take my light gray and I'm going to entirely paint this top surface a lighter gray. Now remember, I haven't even done the back of this axe. But I'm going to paint the light gray up there too. And then we'll take I'll get this little part done, and then we'll take a little break toward the end of the stream to talk about color theory and that new book that I got, thanks to Zachariah. Now again, we're going to white edge everything. I'm blocking in my darker colors first. Now in small areas like this, you end up not doing as many layers because you don't have a lot of room here. Don't have a lot of room. So we're going to put those in. Make sure you've got, I've lost some of my shadows here. Then we'll do edge. But yeah, dragons don't really have any better chance to win in a painting competition. Your dragon needs to be done really well, and you can get the skills to paint the dragon really well by painting smaller dragons and then scaling up. So we're doing edges. Bye, Shadow Raven. Thanks for hanging out. So we've got that. We got that light size. We've got a couple of shadow sides here. I do want a slight shadow up top, but not really. I don't want to go anywhere near as dark as I've done on other parts, but I just want to get a little bit. So it's still lighter, but I do want a little bit of contrast up there. Yes, we keep saying that we need to start the Kuranico ReaperCon fund. Honestly, Kuro, I hate to say this, but if you painted some models and sold them instead of like painting so much for everybody for free, you might get some money for ReaperCon. Or if that poisons your love of the hobby, you just ignore me. But it is a thought. It is a thought. Or selling some of your models that you might not ever get to. That could be another ReaperCon fund builder. That's just, I only say this because I love you and would love to meet you at ReaperCon. But like I said, selling miniatures is not for everybody, so ignore me if it doesn't fit you. Because, like, honestly, those dragon bookends, that dragon bookend, if you painted a couple of those and put them up on eBay, I bet you would get some money. Of course, painting another one of them might just tax your sanity. Yeah, but you don't want those people. Yeah, you don't want those people. There are better people out there. There are people who will pay you what you're worth out there. But you just gotta, like, get to them. For me, that was, like, eBay. But now it's probably more like Etsy. But yeah, you never want to. It's tricky, right? There are creator books on being a professional creator that are out there that talk about this specifically, about the exchange has to feel good on both sides. Like the person getting the product has to feel that they're paying as much as it is worth, and the creator has to feel that they are getting paid well for what they're doing. And that's the hard part, right? Because as with mini painting especially, you're going to get people who are trying to get something for nothing. But there are clients out there who understand what good painting is worth. How much work it needed, yeah. Yeah, it is a lot. It's big. I mean, an airbrush would make it faster, but still. We have shiny. Shiny. Very shiny. So shiny. Now we need shiny gold in more places. And I probably need to bring up his skin tone a bit. It's very bright. So if I wanted to dirty it up, I would have to bring in some brown tones and kind of speckle in some stuff, make it dirtier. I don't know that I would. I don't know. It's his implement of destruction. I can bring in a little bit of pure white up here on this little bone amulet. And I can definitely bring some more up onto the skull. And I can bring his skin tone up another level too to help balance it. Oh, yeah. There you go. Everybody, at least a couple people win the lottery, commission Kerniko to paint a few dragons, and she'll be able to make it to ReaperCon. That sounds like a great plan. Wonderful plan. Sweet. All right, so let's take the last 15 minutes and talk about color a bit. So let's do that. I finished the front. I really don't want to start the back because it's going to take a while. Although I can at least put in, I suppose I can at least put in the shadow. Straight up wet blending at this point. And again, I'm just starting with a single band, and after that, I take it and broaden it out and make it into sections. But I do want a general shadow there. Fun to painting competition that's just for dragons. You know, Creature Caster comes close to that. Obviously, they put out a lot of like greater demon type figures, but all the models are like big and in that kind of classification of big nasty monster. Sometimes I feel the demons have a little bit of an advantage because they've got like clothes and jewelry and stuff, and dragons don't have that. Most dragons. There. So we got at least that kind of mapped in there. And we can just work on that more next time. I see Richard Bennett. That's funny. Yes, right, Kerniko, exactly. Yeah. One of your friends becoming independently wealthy. I used to have that dream. I got rid of it. It wasn't serving me. I decided to try to become a best-selling author instead. All right. This is the book. Color Harmony. Pantone edition. Boop, boop, boop. Make some way. Here you go. Now, the thing to understand about this book, first and foremost, is it is not a complete, it will not tell you everything. What it is doing is generally giving you 3 or 4 color combos, but what it is really missing out on, and it also gives you a section here that talks about like the psychological and cultural meanings of some colors, which is very useful. It has a section in the back for personality color personality stuff, like if you like yellow, you're this kind of person. I consider that kind of hooey, but you know, you might find it fun to read. But what this book is not going to do is you need to remember that, think of these as clothing guides. So your model is still going to have neutrals on it, like a skin tone. Actually, the back here is a great illustration. This pretty much told me what this book was about. So she's rocking this color scheme. Like there are bits of those light colors, that light green in her headband. She's got the deeper turquoise. She's got some green also in the headband. So she's got that kind of thing going on. But what it's not telling you is the fact that these colors are mostly looking as good as they are because of her skin tone and her color accents, i.e. lips and blush. So if you think of this as, hey, this is a good combo for like clothing and accessories, but I still need to get neutrals in play in order for you to really pull things together, then you'll do better with this. But it's interesting because like it's in categories. So like delectable, and it gives you like frosting, right? And so then it gives you these kind of combos. And it's got some really cool ones. Here, let me see. What's my other favorite here? Playful. Playful is a lot of bright colors. And they're giving Pantones. Obviously, you don't have equivalents, Pantone equivalents with a lot. Like rich tends to be really like burgundies and rich purples and golds. We're going to go to the power clashing one. I just need to find it. But think of these as like, because you can see like, okay, active. Okay, cool. Really bright colors usually, right? And there is some contrast in each of these wheels. Some of them are more contrasting than others. But like in something like this, remember you need a dark. And that dark is going to probably be a neutral. Here they're giving us the neutral. They're putting the black in there. And they've got grays in some of these as well. But this alone is not, you're going to need neutrals and darker colors to balance this out. Most likely. So let me find the clashy one. There we go. So power clashing is something that came up in clothing design. I talk a lot, guys, about how in my old color theory class, the worst color theory combo ever is like magenta and orange, pink and orange. Guess what? Pink and orange. Guess what? Pink and orange. Yeah, it clashes intentionally. So these are colors that are intentionally choosing clashing colors. But if you have read any of my color theory stuff, you will already see that some of these are cheating. So there's a thing where if 2 of the colors you choose are complementary to each other, you can throw something completely wrong in there and it'll still be okay. That's exactly what we're seeing here. It's orange and blue. It's complementary. So throwing this weird greenish taupe in there, it's not amazing. It's not going to make your gut resonate well, but it's okay. You can manage it. Down here, again, they're using the blue as the accent, but you've still got these two. Otherwise, these colors hate each other. They absolutely... This is the worst color combo ever. Burnt orange and, like, pink magenta. It is the most clashing, terrible ever. But down here, again, we've got a bluish gray and an orange, and this is actually the Overwatch color scheme. It's actually just fine. This is terrible. So I wanted to talk about kind of the whys and wherefores, why some of these are terrible. The reason, you're going to see this again, if you have read any of my work on color theory, of which a lot of it is on my Patreon, I talk about how the biggest problem people get into is trying to match bright colors with muted colors. And how if you mute a color, You really need to make sure that everything is muted. I also talk a lot about how the closer colors are on the color wheel, the more they fight. So if we look up here, we're going to see kind of like really head on what we're talking about. So we've got this intense pink with these muted colors. And you can right away see that they're fighting. Plus, this pink is really close to this pink. It's slightly warmer and muted, and this pink is really hot. So these are fighting just intensively. And this green really, even though they're complements, they kind of really hate each other because this is muted and this isn't. So that is like, let's contrast that. Let's see if I can find it good. Let's contrast that to this, where everything is a bit muted and so they're working. Like we still have a pink and a purple next to each other here. But it's okay because they're muted colors and they're working together. You can even have a purple and pink that are close on the color wheel, but they're both muted and they're paired with a really black, probably is actually black. It's black or near black. Could be a dark blue. But because of that contrast and the fact that these are muted, they're going to work okay. Whereas you come back to here and we've got autumn colors with a bright red accent. And this is a burnt orange and that's a mahogany brown. This isn't as bad as some of them, but it's not feeling good. And the reason is that this is bright. Can you still work with this color scheme? Absolutely. The key is to make this very small. And you'd also want to toss in some black and maybe some cream to separate out these colors. And that will help. It will not make an amazing color combo, but it will help. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, using clashing colors is a strategy. It's an advanced strategy. And if you really don't have a clue yet as to what colors work with other colors, you probably don't want to go here. So that's why I'm actually using this as a tool to show you why these clash, why they're awful together. So this one, obviously, we've got a muted orange, a burnt orange, with a bright blue. Not the best combo, but because they're complementary, it's not as bad as it could be. Plus, we've got a really grayed out, greened out kind of beige, which is just a weird one. This is ugly as sin. But you could make this work, again, with judicious use of neutrals. I would probably brighten the orange a little bit so it works better with the blue. But you could also drop the blue to a dark blue. And if you dropped it dark enough, the contrast would be enough that you could work it. And then you would lighten this up to a near white. And then it would work. So all you need to do to make this work is actually to make one really dark, one really light, and use that. So this is why it doesn't work as is and how you can actually make it work. So this is really interesting. Maybe I'll do a $5 PDF on this at some point. This one isn't as bad because the yellow and purple are both pretty saturated, so they're actually pure complements. They're happy. This muted color is not great with the yellow, but it also isn't terrible. This is the kind of effect actually that you'd end up with if you're using NMM gold with a yellow and purple. So I don't think this one is very clashy at all. I think this one is terrible. That one is awful. Would you wear that? I would not wear that. And yet, guess what? That is the exact color combo that this is. But you know what else is in this that isn't in that other? They're throwing in the stripe of purple. They're throwing in a dark color to separate it out. They're throwing in dark blues to resonate with the oranges, right? Dark blues resonate with that orange. They've got a yellow stripe to work with the purple. So they actually have other colors in here that are helping to mitigate the ugly. If they didn't have those other colors in here to mitigate this ugly, and it's still ugly, it would be a total fail. It would be a total wardrobe fail. So keep in mind that even though this is mostly that, you can use other colors to make it work better. This one, like I said, this is pretty much the Overwatch color scheme. I actually find this pretty pleasing. That is a modified Christmas, and it's ugly as sin because this is so great. This is also, where is that other one? Some of these are bad because of the way they gray out. Like trying to take a grayed out color and a browned out color and make them work together. This one is a good example. You can actually run into a problem with that sometimes with muting. And again, the solution then is to probably make one very light and the other darker, or make the third color darker. Notice also that these are, for the most part, 3-color schemes, and that is what most of us are telling you guys to do. We're like 3 strong colors, 4 at most, but when I use 4 strong colors on a model, one of them is a very small accent. So 3 strong colors are pretty standard in color schemes, and there's a reason for that. So when you're looking at stuff and adding other colors to miniatures, question whether you really need a new color or if you just need to reuse a color you've already used. So yeah, so this is running into problems. This is a faded but still pretty decent green, but then you've got this brown and grayed out taupe color with a really bright red. The answer again is probably to take your green darker, take the taupe lighter so that you can make it a neutral, highlight it up to an off-white, then things will start to work. So you can see how even with clashing color schemes, you can make them more pleasing with pushing light and dark, right? Switching those around, you can make these fail color schemes into decent color schemes. This one's not bad. Mostly it's having issues because it's a very grayed, browned out color here, and this is more of a grayed out purple. The dark purple and light purple actually work just fine together. If you slid this more toward a yellow, you'd actually be okay with it, especially if you took it as like a cloth color. Say you've got like purple and purple for armor, and you wanted a whitish tabard, and you use this as a shadow for that tabard, you could make it work. But the rest of the tabard has to come up to an off-white to a neutral to make that work. I wouldn't go dark with it because you've already got very dark purple. You're probably going to be shading that with a near black. This one's not bad. Not bad at all. The blue is a little bit too intense. That's why it clashes. Again, we could drop that blue, that greenish blue, we could drop that down to a darker, just even a little bit darker. This is also a little bit warmer, and this is a softer purple, and these are close on the color wheel. So yeah, they're not happy, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. If you made this a little softer, it would work. Like if you mixed in a little bit of Lego Syrian sand to this pink, you would make it work just fine. So it's usually the fact that one color is more saturated and the other colors are softer that is really running into like some of these with the problems. And here we are again. We've got a soft peach with yellow and blue. Yellow and blue normally work just fine. This is a little bit of a weird yellow. It is a little bit brown. It's a little bit brown, a little bit orange, but it's okay with this blue. But the peach is really just not working at all as the main color. Now keep in mind, these are also giving you like a main color and accents, right? This is using the 60-30-10 rule. Did you notice? Almost. It's a 50. It's more like a 50-35-15. But it's using that kind of rule that we talked about the other day on stream, where you've got a main color and then you've got other colors. The problem here is that both of your accents totally clash with your main. So you either need to shift the accents or you need to shift the main. Is that making sense to everybody? So here for the main, like switching it closer to a light red, maybe, although this is still pretty intense. I'd want to soften the yellow. Yeah, this is just an ugly scheme because these two colors fight. So fight. This. Zachariah got it, and so he turned me onto it, so I decided to grab it, Slavic, and use it as an example to kind of show you guys how to analyze a color scheme if it's not working. The power clashing section, which purposefully throws colors that clash together, is a really good tool for this, for building like how you understand how this stuff. Sometimes you can fix these, sometimes you really just need to throw it out. Like that last one, I would just throw it out and get a different color scheme. These are terrible because the orange here is more bright, the orange here is more muted. You're essentially using almost exactly the same color. This one's more red, this one's more yellow, but you're muting out one of it, and then you're using two bright colors. Again, just like our previous example, this is a terrible idea. Especially when two of your main colors are so close to each other. Why would you even do this? So the answer here is probably to turn this to a brown. It's very close to a brown anyway. It's really a very orangey brown. So if I move this to like a darker brown, if I essentially push it down to being more of a burnt umber, then these two colors will work with that dark brown just fine. And you can even use this color to highlight my dark brown so I don't lose it entirely if my heart is set on it. But that's what I would do to fix that. This one's actually okay. Like these two colors, they're all right. This one maybe needs to be a little less muted, a little more intense. I would darken the green. I would take it down. But otherwise, you could make this work just fine. This one, likewise, not too bad. the teal and the purple, of course, work together. The big problem here is that the teal is too vibrant, whereas the purple is more faded and the pink is pretty faded. I would lighten the pink. I would either darken the teal or fade the teal a little bit, gray it out a little bit so it's closer to this, and you would probably be just fine. I would still keep the teal darker, and I would take the pink a little lighter. Again, contrast. So hopefully that was interesting for you guys. What do you think? And of course, there's plenty of like interesting, just very, and there are all sorts of good color schemes in here. And some of them are very counterintuitive. You might not think that you would want to take like a khaki with a blue, gray, and a brown, but I have actually painted a model in this color scheme. I don't think I had pictures of it. It was for my ex, but I did, and mine actually swapped it where the main color scheme was the blue, this was the secondary color, and that was the tertiary. But yeah, so all the things I teach you, you can see, even with this book that has no relation to anything that I've done before, it bears out, right? It's the same, it all is in line, it all works. All my theory works with the stuff in there. So if you are on my Patreon at the $5 and $10 level, I think I've got my color theory class handout at the $10 level, which is a big monster, long PDF. So if you're on my Patreon, patreon.com/paintingbig, I've done color theory stuff for $5. I've done color theory stuff for $10. I will be doing a couple of little abbreviated color theory things just for $2, just pretty much short versions of previous lessons, for essentially to do YouTube videos on it just to get people started out there with it, things like that. But yeah. Purple cloth, green accents, warm pale skin, blonde hair. You're fine because green and purple, as long as you don't make one of your green or purple really muted, you're fine. Because green and purple go together. They're part of a triad. Do you have a color wheel, Slavic? Yeah. All right, so triangle here, triads. Move the triangle appropriately so that you've got purple, which is violet on this, and green. Green, violet, green, and orange, purple, green, and orange is a triad. So these three colors, these three secondary colors go together just fine. Where you're going to get into trouble is if you choose a really gray green and a really bright purple, right? So use what... Yeah, this is the back side. This is the front side. So these little mini color wheels, they're like maybe a couple bucks on Amazon. They're really useful. I have a few. I think Scale 75 gives one out in every Kickstarter they do. So you can look here to just see that. So yeah, but the problem then is just make sure that if you're using like a faded or muted violet, you also use a muted green. Or if you're using a really intense purple, you use a pretty intense green. You also, it helps if one of them is darker and one is lighter. But you also have a very light, warm skin tone, so you're going to be fine there. Skin tones are mostly neutrals. Definitely you can choose a skin tone that will clash with your colors. But if you're going for like a warm, lighter skin tone, in general, you're going to be fine. Yeah, just be careful with orange skin. I mean, you can do it, and most skin tones are muted oranges. Like, this is Peachy Flesh. It's very orange, right? If we bring it up here, it matches that. It matches red-orange pretty well. In fact, one of the ways you can build a skin tone is to take an orange and add white to it, and then adjust it. So, yeah, your skin tone, no matter what you do, is what I'm saying. If you have a lighter skin tone, chances are it's an orange, whether you're aiming that way or not. You don't have to make it an orange, and the more you push it toward orange, the worse it's going to look. You want to keep it more of a neutral. But yeah, so if you look at like the muted versions here, especially the red-orange, usually it's like a coral color. Your skin tone is actually like a coral red-orange plus white, your average skin tone. And you don't want to drop too much of the rosy tone out of it, usually. Yeah. But if you do get a little bit off, remember, if you make one of them really dark, you can get past that. So if you do choose a purple that's a little more muted than your green, but you just decide to start with the shadow color and build up from there, so you will overall make it look darker, that can solve it right there. As can just highlighting your green up to yellow, which will essentially resonate with your purple, and that'll create a complement. There's all sorts of tricks, can you tell? Lots of tricks, lots of color tricks. The color you paint something doesn't mean that you can't sneak another color into it. But yeah, in general, with a orange, green, purple, you're going to be okay. Just as long as you pay attention. Yeah. Yep, like I said, I have a bunch of this stuff on the on the Patreon, so if you're there, check it out. Otherwise, watch for some very simple color theory stuff, just like I was going over. Watch for that popping up on the YouTube. I think I'm going to start that next month or the month after. It depends. I've got my first concepts video is about paint lines, so, but it'll be in the concepts and miniature painting series on my YouTube. And that, of course, will be free. And then the $2 level on my Patreon will be PDFs to go with that stuff. Just the really short PDFs. So, there we be. There we be. So, all right, it's about 1:15, so that's perfect. Thank you all for coming along on our Barbarian Painting Spree plus Color Theory today. Tomorrow is, yay! Tomorrow's back to our new mini. It's Dragonborn time. Yay! It's Dragonborn Paladin time. It's Dragonborn Paladin. He's going to do a dance. So we're working very slowly, and this is a good color theory subject too, because we are trying to develop the color for this dragon. So we started out with a dark teal, and we're working up with a beige underbelly and horns, and we still have to figure out some of our other colors here. So, because I was going to do some red and orange, but right now our teal is very muted, so I have to work with that. So yeah, so we'll be talking a lot about color theory tomorrow. Yes, and my personal stream will be on tomorrow. Sorry, so this will be Monday. Apologies. I forgot it was Friday. It was the short week. It messed me up. So yeah, so this will be Monday. Tomorrow I'll be painting on my stream, depending on how I feel. We might do owlbear, we might do wood elf. I don't think I'm in the mood for dragon right now, so one of those two probably. If I want to get owlbear's fur done, so we may owlbear. We're very close to getting owlbear himself finished as far as painting goes, and then there's just the base. So, sorry, twitch.tv/paintingbig. If you look there, Shotgun Derek, go and give me a follow. It's the first link there, twitch.tv/paintingbig. Toss on over and follow me. And it'll be tomorrow at 3:30 USA Central Time. So, 3:30 USA Central. Albert's your favorite? Okay, maybe we'll work on Albert tomorrow. But yeah, so there we go. Yes. And also give my YouTube a follow as well, because I'm trying to get... Now I have over 1,000 followers on YouTube. I'm trying to get more. I want more! All right, everybody, thank you so much. Quindy, thank you as always for herding the cats. The paint cats. And I will see you guys tomorrow, all right, over on Twitch on my stream. Bye-bye.